Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to another episode in our full stack for development series where we are building a social media app similar to Instagram using React, TypeScript, Firebase, and Uploadcare. For styling our components, we are using Tailwind CSS and Shadcn UI. If you have missed the previous part, then you can just click on the card above and jump to it directly. Let me show you the demo that we are going to build in this video. Alright guys, so this is our application demo. We have included some more features to this application. One is definitely the home page and other one is the profile page. So what I will do is let's go to the profile first, and here you will see that we have the guest user, we have the email address of the user, and then we don't have any bio or anything. And this is because when you register a user with the email address, the user doesn't have a username and the profile picture by default. So if we go here and if we see that this is the Firebase object, here the user will not have a display name because this user was registered using the email address and there is no profile picture. So what we will do is we will click on the edit and then we will just upload a profile picture for this user. So let me upload this one. I'm going to click on open. It will upload to the Uploadcare CDN, and when I click on done, so here the updated profile picture, let's give the display name. So I can give the display name as John Day, and let's update the bio of the user. So I am a technical content creator. I will click on the update. So I will click on update, and you will see that now we go to the profile where we have the username and we also have the profile bio. And you will also see that apart from this, the username and the profile photo is also updated now in the Firebase user. So this is the Firebase user object. Now you will see that we have the display name, which is John Day, and we also have the photo URL. But for the profile bio, we have the user profile info collection into our Firestore database. So if I go here, then you will see that we have this new collection which actually just stored some information like the display name, photo URL, user bio, and the user ID. Now I can go back here and we can just click on the home and we will see that we have all the posts here. Now let's create a new post by this user. Now let's click here and let's upload a picture, and I will click open, and what I will do is now it's uploaded and we see a sample preview. Now I will just change this and I will write how to build React app faster. Let me clear the console. I will click on the post and you will see that now we have the new post where we have the username and we also have the profile picture. Now what happens that if you change the profile picture or the name, it will immediately reflect here. So I'm going to click here and I will go to the profile page. Now I will edit the profile. I will say John Day creator, and I will also change the picture. So I'm going to click here and let's change the picture to this one. I will click open, and if I click on the update, you will see the picture is updated immediately. If I go to home, you will see the picture and the name is updated immediately. So this is where we have done so much synchronization in the post, in the Firebase user object, and into our user profile collection. So they all three are in a sync. Now a user can just like this post. So I'm going to click on like. And as soon as we like, so you will go to the Firestore database and you will see that for this post, for the user likes, we have this user ID who has liked this post. Now if you click on dislike, you will see there is a change in the count immediately, 0, and you will also see the object is also updated. So now this object doesn't have the user ID. So I'm going to click on like, alright, and I will just click on logout. Now let's try a Google login user. So I'm going to click on the Google. I will just select my user account and we are now logged in, and you will see that the count is still 1. So I will just like this, and now the count changes to 2. And if we go into the object, then you will see that this has now 2 user IDs because 2 people has liked this post. And here is the user. So let's change this user. So I'm going to change the profile. I'm going to click and update the profile image. I will click on done, and I will also change this to King, and I will click on update, and you will see that now it's updated. And if we go to the home, then we see that we have this King, and this is our new profile picture. So we are going to learn a lot of new things while building this profile and edit profile and the home page, and we will see how we can play with the Firebase user object and then update that object, and how we do the synchronization in different places for the username and for the profile photo. So if this sounds interesting, then stick around. Also don't forget to subscribe the channel and press the bell icon so that you don't miss the videos like this one. So let's get started. Alright guys, so now let's start working on the home page. So what I will do is first let's create the JSX part. So in the JSX, I'm going to use a div here and I will have the class as flex and I will give the flex column. Then what we will do is we are going to create another div and I'm going to give a class as relative. I'm going to give the margin bottom as 6. I will use the full width text as gray 600. Alright, and then we are going to create the search bar first. So if we go and check, then what we will do is let me log in first. So I'm going to use my account and I will log in to the user. All right, so we see the home page and there's nothing here. So what we will do is first let's have the search bar. So I'm going to do an inspect here and I will have the inspect here, and now we are going to build the search bar first. So let's go back to the Visual Studio Code and here we are going to use the input. So let me go here and I'm going to use the input which will be coming from the UI component. Then we are going to have the class names on the input. So I'm going to use the border as 2. I'm going to use the border color which will be gray 300. Then I'm going to give the background as white and we're going to have the height of my input box as 10 and padding on x-axis as 5 and padding right as 16. We are also going to use the corner as rounded. So let's add the rounded as SM, and then what I will do is we are going to use the text which I will be using text base, and let's have the focus. So the focus outline will be none. All right, so we have this, and then what we are going to do is inside this we will just make this as a self closing tag. So I'm going to remove this and I'm going to close it here. All right, now I will just break it so that it becomes a little bit easy to work on. And here I will also put the placeholder. So let's have the placeholder and I'm going to use the placeholder as search. Then we are going to use the type. So let me have the type and I will use the type as search, and I will have the name property and that name will be search. All right, so this is our input, and we will also need to have the search icon. So what I will do is I'm going to use a button and I will have the type as submit. I'm going to give some class names. So I will have the class name as absolute since we are using the position relative here. So I can give a absolute here. I will give the right as -2.5 and I will give the top as -2.5. All right, and then I'm going to close this, and inside the button I'm going to use the search icon which will be coming from the Lucid React, and I will give the class name. So the width of the search icon will be 5 and the height will be 5, and then I will have the text gray as 500 or maybe 400. All right, I'm going to close this. Now let's go and let's see. So we have this beautiful search bar here. Now below the search bar we will also need to have the stories. So let's create those stories. So what I will do is I'm going to go here. I will go to this div and then I'm going to create a div. I will have a class name here. So margin bottom will be 5. I'm going to use the overflow Y as scroll because we need this page, the centered page should be in a scroll position because we are going to have a feed, so the page should get scroll. All right, we have this auto, and then I'm going to use the H2 tag, and inside the H2 tag I'm going to use the stories. I will just give the margin bottom as 5. Now to get the stories, what I will do is I'm going to create a component. So let's go and create that component first. So I'm going to go in the components, and in the components I'm going to create a new folder which will be stories. All right, and inside that I'm going to create a file which will be index.tsx. Let's create this component. I'm going to use tsrsc, which is going to give me the component, and I'm going to use the stories here. All right, for now what I will do is I'm simply going to use a div and I will have the stories here. Now I can use this stories in my home component. So what I will do is I will go here and I'm going to use the stories component here. All right, so we have the stories. Now the third part what we need here is we need to have the feeds. So what I will do is I'm going to have a div. I'm going to give a class name and I will have the margin bottom as 5. Then inside that I'm going to use the H2 tag, and on the H2 I'm going to write as feed. We can also give a class here and we're going to give the margin bottom as 5 so that we can get some space. Now if you want to check, we see that we have the search bar, we have the stories, then this is the stories component, and then we have the feeds. So there is no space here. Let's check that. So we will go and we will see that we have a misspell here. So now we should have a space here. All right, now we have the feeds, and below the feeds what we want is we are going to use a div. I'm going to give a class name as, we will give the full
width, and we are going to use the flex. We are going to put the justify as center. We want all the feeds to be in the center. All right, and then I'm going to have a div, and I will give a class name here, and I will use the class name as flex. I will use the flex as column. We want all the posts to be in a column format. We're going to use the max width, so I'm going to use the max width as SM. For the smaller devices, I'm going to use it as rounded SM. The corners and the overflow would be hidden. All right, and in this div we are going to render all our feeds. So before that, what we will do is we are going to fetch all the posts. So I'm going to go here. All right, so now to get the post, what we will do is we are going to create a date variable first. So I'm going to have a constant, and on this constant I will have the data. I will have the user, not user, it will be set data, and this will be equals to the use date. All right, and we need to pass the type of the data that we are going to have. So I'm going to have the document response. So we don't have the document. Okay, we have the document response. So if we go and see in our types, then if we go down, if we go and see in our type, then we have this document response. So we can go back here, and this document response will be an array. So I will have the initial value as an empty array. Now we have the data and the set data. We are also going to take the user. So I'm going to have my user here. All right, and this will be coming from the use user auth, which is our context API. All right, then what we will do is we are going to create a function. So I'm going to have the function get all post, which will be equals to an arrow function, and I'm going to use async here. And here what I will do is I'm going to have a constant response, and this response will be of type document response, which will be an array. All right, and then we're going to use the await, and then we can just make the call to our Firestore database. So if we go and check in our repository, then we already have the get post. So we're going to use this get post. So what I will do is I'm going to go here and I will use the await, and we will have the get posts. So this is going to give us all the post. All right, now if we go to the get post, then we see that we make a query and then we just return the documents. Instead of returning the get docs, what I can do is I can simply have all my logic here. So this is going to return me a query snapshot. So I'm going to use a snapshot. All right, and I have to use an await here. So we're going to have an async here. So let's have the async. Now once we have the query snapshot, what we will do is we are going to have that if this query snapshot size is greater than 0, all right, that means we have some documents. But if it is not, then in that case we are simply going to have a console.log. We are going to have no such document. All right, now we are also going to wrap this in a try catch block, so that in case if we have any exception, then we can just log them. So I'm going to have my try block here. All right, and then I'm going to have the catch, which is going to have an error, and if it's an error, then we are just going to have a console.log, and we are going to log the error. Now this is the case that if the size is greater than 0, then we need to loop through this query snapshot and get each of the doc. We are going to have a query snapshot dot for each, and for each it is going to give us a single document which we are going to take. Now once we have this single document, we're going to have two parts. One will be the doc.id, which is the document ID, and another will be the doc.data, which is the actual data. So let's get the data first. So I'm going to have the data, and this data will be doc.data, and we're going to cast this data as our post. All right, so that on the data we have all the values that are available on the post object. Okay, now next what I will do is I'm going to have a constant, and I will create a response object which will be a type of document response. So let's have the document response here, and this is going to be an object. So here what we will do is we are going to just have a transformation. So we are going to have the ID. So if we go to this document response, then what we will have is we have this ID, and the rest everything is this, and this all is same as what we have it in the post. So that's where you see that this is the data and the ID is the doc.id. So we have the document ID, and then the rest everything we are going to use whatever we have it in the data. So we are going to just spread them. Oops, it should be data. And what we will do is we are going to loop through and get all the documents. So for that we will just create a temporary array for now. So I'm going to have a temp array, and this temp array will be equal to the document response array, and initially we are going to give it as an empty array. Now once we have this response, we are going to push this response to our temporary array. So I will have the push here, and we push the response obj. Now, once all the docs are pushed into the temporary array, we're just going to return it. So what I will do is I'm going to return the temp array. Now we have this temporary array which contains all our documents that we need to display it on our home page. So if we go back here, and now we should be able to get the response. Now it says that this response can also be an undefined. So to do that, what we can do is I can also give a empty array here. Now we will not get that error anymore. And once we get the response, we are just going to set this response into our set data. So if we have the set data, we are just going to set the response. So now we have this data here. Now we need to make a call on the get all post. So for that, we have to use the use effect. So let's have the use effect. All right, and on this use effect, which is going to be an arrow function, and we are just simply going to check that if our user is not equals to null, then in that case what we have to do is we need to make a call to our post. All right, so I'm going to have the get all post. Now once we have this, we will also need to have a empty array. So we want this only to be executed one time, and this is going to give us all the post. Now if we want to see, what we can do is we can go here, and then we can simply have a console.log, and we can just log the response that we get. All post are, and we are going to have just this response, and we can just check. So if I go back here, and if we go to the console, and if I clear everything, if I refresh this page, then we see that we have all the posts. So these are 3 posts that we have for different users. Now we can just display them. So for displaying them, what we will do is let's go back here, and here what we can do, that if we have the data, then in that case we want to render our post. So I'm going to use the render post. All right, and if we don't have the render post, then in that case I will simply have a div, and then I'm going to have the loading. So I will just use the loading. All right, now we need to create this function, which is the render post. So we can just create that. So I'm going to go here. I will have a constant. I will have the render post. All right, this is going to be an arrow function, and I just misspelled the constant. All right, and here what we will do is I'm going to loop through all the data. So I'm going to have the return data dot map, and then I will have the item. All right, this is going to have an arrow function, and then we are going to return. And here we are going to create a new component that is going to be our postcard, which is going to display how our post looks like. So let's create that component first. So I'm going to go here. I'm going to go, and I will have a new component, which will be the postcard. So let me have the postcard. All right, and in this postcard, what I will do is I'm going to have my index.tsx. All right, I'm going to use tsrsc to create the component, and I will have the postcard here. Now if we go back here, then we can just use the postcard, and on this postcard we are going to pass the data. All right, and I will have the item. So we are going to pass the individual post, and then we are going to have the postcard. So I will have a key here. All right, and then I'm going to just close it, and to the key, what I will do is I'm going to have the item.id, and then we have this data. All right, so this is how our homepage will look like. Now we need to create the component, which is the stories, and we also need to create a component, which is a postcard. So first we will work on the stories part. So let's go to the stories here. And in the stories, what I will do is I'm going to remove this, and I will have a div. So for that div, I'm going to give a class name as flex and justify between. Inside that, what I will do is I'm going to have an image, and I need to give a source to that image. All right, apart from that, we will also have some classes to it. So the width will be 20, height will be 20. We want it in a circular form, so it will be rounded full. Then we are going to use the border as 4, and we will give the border color. So I'm going to use the border color as slate 800. All right, and then I'm going to use the object cover. All right, so this is how our image will look like, and then I'm just going to repeat it for a couple of times. So what I will do is we will also need to have the image here. So we are already having some assets here. So if we go to the images, we have some assets. So what I will do is I'm just going to copy paste some assets, and we will just use those assets. So I'm going to copy, and then I'm going to use the assets here. All right, now we are just going to use the assets. So I will use the image as 2, and now I can just duplicate it. So I'm going to copy 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and I will just change the images. So I have the image 2. I'm going to use image 3 here, then image 5, This will become 6. Then we have the 7, and we have 3, and we have again 2. All right. Now, if we go and if we see, then if I refresh it, then we see that we get an error. And this error could be the reason if we go and check. So let me go up and we see that the render post is not defined. So let's go and let's check again. So if I go to my home page, okay, let's go to the home page. And on the home page, we see that we have the render post, and here we have the render post. So we are just going to change this to posts. All right. And if we refresh it, then we see that now we have the stories as well. Although these stories is a static, we are not building any functionality, but maybe later on we are going to build that functionality as well. But right now we will just focus on our feeds. So we have this feed, and now we need to display all our posts here. So let's go back here, and now what we will do is for this postcard, let's have the data first. So we have already having a data here. So I'm going to have the data, and this data will be type of document response. All right. So we get this as a prop, and now once we have it, what we will do is we are just going to destructure the data, and we will also use the user here. So we have our user, and this will be equals to the user auth. All right. And now let's build the JSX part first. So for the JSX, what I will do is I'm going to use the card component of the Shadcn UI. So let's have the Shadcn UI. And if I go here, then I'm going to go to the components, and on the components, I'm going to use this card. All right. So I'm going to use this card. So you can just take a reference of it. Now I will go back to the Visual Studio Code, and here what I will do is let's have the card. I'm going to give the class name as margin bottom 6 to this card. Inside the card, I'm going to have the card header. All right. I'm going to give a class name to the card header as flex call, and then I will have the padding as 3. Now inside the card header, we are going to have the card title. All right. I'm going to give the class name as text small. Then the text will be in the center. Then we are going to use the flex. I will have the justify at the start, and I will have the items as center. All right. And on the title, what I will do is I'm going to use the span. So the first title, it will be the user image, and then we are going to have the user name. So it will be very similar what we have it on an Instagram post. So I'm going to use the class name here, and the class name will be margin right 2, and we are going to use the image. So for the image, what I will do is I'm going to use the image tag here. I will have to define a source, and I will have to give some class names here. So the image will look like width will be 10, height will be 10, it will be in a rounded full. So I'm going to have the rounded full. Then I'm going to have the border as 2. We're going to have the border color slate as 800, and then we're going to have the object cover. So it will be very similar what we had in our stories. All right. So we have the image. For now, what I will do is I'm just going to give a hard-coded image here and not the actual user image. So for that, we can just take a reference from the stories, and I can just use any of the image. So I will just copy, and I will put it in my postcard. All right. Now I can just use the image. All right. You see that now we have the post cards here, and this is how the image looks like. Now we need to work more on this. So after the image, what we will do is we will also need to have another span where we will have the username. So I'm going to have a span, and on this span, what I will do is I'm going to have my username. So for now, I will just give the username as guest user. All right. So this is what our card title looks like. The next thing was the card body. So let's have the card content. And in the card content, what I will do is I'm going to give a padding as 0. Then I'm going to use the image. I will have the source of that image. And on that image, what I will do is if the data dot photos is available, then in that case we are only going to display the first photo. So right now we don't have any functionality that if you upload multiple images in a single post, then we cannot show all the images because we are not using any carousel or any slider. So we are going to take only the first photo. So I'm going to have the data dot photos, and I'm going to use the first photo dot cdn url. All right. And if it's not available, then we're just going to keep it as empty. I will just close the image source. And if we go and check, then we see that we now getting the post. So this is one of the posts, this was another post, and this was one of the posts. Now we have the content and the footer part we need to build. So let's have the card footer. So I'm going to have the card footer, and here I'm going to give the class name. I will have a flex. I'm going to use the flex call and padding as 3. Now on the footer, what I have to do next is I'm going to create a div, and I'm going to give a div with a class. So I'm going to use the flex justify between. I will use the full width. All right, and I will give the margin bottom as 3. And below that, we are going to create now two icons. One will be the heart icon where a user can like, other will be the comment icon. So let's go and let's have that. So here what I will do is I'm going to use the heart icon that will be coming from the Lucid React. And on the heart icon, what I will do is I'm going to give some class names, but I will use CN because I want to merge some class names. So for that, what I will do is I'm going to have the class names as margin right, then I'm going to have the cursor pointer, and then I will just close it. So for now we need to import this CN. So let me try to import it. All right, so now I have imported it. If we go and check, then we see that we have the heart icon now. All right, now the next what we need to do is we will also need to have the other icon, which will be the comment icon. So for that, I'm going to use the message circle. So this is also coming from the Lucid React, and on this message circle I will just use a class name, and I'm going to give the margin right as 3. All right, so now we should have both the icons. So we have this two icons. Now below that, we will also need to have some more information, and that will be the likes count. So let's go and let's work on that. So here what I will do is I'm going to create a new div. I'm going to have the class name as width full, and the text will be SM, and here we are going to have the likes. Here I will have the 0 first, and we are going to have the likes here, or maybe I will just use the small. All right, and the last is we will also need to have the caption. So what I will do is I'm going to have a div. I'm going to use the class name. So we're going to use the same class name. So I'm going to copy, put it here, and inside that I'm going to have a span, and to the span what I will do is I'm going to use the username. So I'm going to give a guest user for now. All right, and then we can use the caption. So I have the data.caption. All right, now let's go and let's check. So if we see here, then we have the post completed. We have the guest user, we have the 0 likes, we have the guest user, and this was the caption. So here this was the caption. So we have all the captions as well. There is still something we need to do is first let's work on this like button. So whenever a user click on it, it will get changed to red color, and the like count will also increase, and we will also save the user ID. The user who likes the post, we have to store that ID. So if we go to the photogram, our Firestore, then you will see that we have this user like. Whenever a user like on it, we are just going to store the user ID of that user who has liked the post. So let's go back and let's work on that part. So what I will do is here first let's create a state variable here. So I'm going to go on the top, and here I will create a constant, and I'm going to create the user variables. So I will have the likes info, and then we're going to have the set like, which will be equals to the react.use state. All right, we need to give the initial state. So the initial state will be an object which is going to contain the like, which will be a number, and we will also have is like to check whether the user has liked or not. So I'm going to use the boolean here, and the initial value of this likes will be, so if I go, we're going to have the likes. We will get this likes from data.likes. So take the initial like count. All right, and then just make a use like, and what we will do here is that if data.user like includes, so we're going to use the includes, and we will see the user ID. So I'm going to have my user.uid. all right, then we're going to have it as true, otherwise we're going to have this as false. So basically what we did is we are going to fetch the data first. So if we go here and we see, we're going to fetch this data first. So this document has likes count, and the document also has the user likes array. So what we are going to do is whenever we get this data, we are going to first put the data.likes into this like, and we are also going to see that if the data.userLikes.includes the user ID, the user which has already logged in. So that means if a user is already logged in, and if that matches, that means the particular user has already liked the photo. So that's why we put it true and we put it false. Okay. Now, once we have this, what we will do is we are going to use it for the changing colors here. So here I want to give, what I will do is I'm going to have that if likes info dot is like, all right, if it's true, then in that case I want to make it as a red color. So I'm going to have the fill red 500. All right, and if it's false, then in that case that means the user has not liked it, so I'm going to give it as fill none. All right, but along with that, when you click on it, we will also need to update the like count. So what I will do is I'm going to have an on click. So let's have an on click here, and on this on click, what I will do is I'm going to have my update like. All right, and whenever a user click on it, we are just going to toggle the value. So whatever the value is, so likes info dot is like, and we are just going to toggle it. So if it's like, then we are going to change it to false, and if it is dislike, then we are going to change it back to true, so that the user can just toggle that button. All right, now we need to write this function, and we get this error, cannot find an update. So let's go and let's create that. So I'm going to go here, I will have the constant, I will have the update like, which will be an arrow function, and this update like also take a value which is a boolean. So I'm going to have that is well, which will be a boolean, and I will just use async here. Now if we go and we see that we get an error here, okay, it's promised. So what we can do is we can just use this function here. Now if we go up and let's write this function. So what we are going to do here actually, so first, whenever we have this is boolean, then I'm going to set my likes info. All right, for the likes count, we need to update the like count. So if a like count is 0, and if a user click on it, it will become 1. If a user click again on it, then it will be -1. So we need to like and dislike, something like that. So what I will do here is, if this is well true, that means user has liked it, so we need to increase the count of the likes. So we are going to have this likes info dot like, and we're going to make it as +1. But if a user click on it again and it becomes false dislike, that means this will be false, so we need to reduce the count. So I'm going to have the likes dot like -1. All right, and the second thing is we will have the is like. So for the is like, we are just going to toggle whatever we have. So this will be likes info dot is like. All right, now if we go and if we try, so if I go here, if I click on it, then you see that we have this toggle here, like and dislike. But you will also notice that this like is not changing. So that is what we need to work on. So when we update it, then this will get automatically changed. So let's go and let's work on it. So once we have this, then what we will do is, if our is well is true, that means user has liked it. So we need to push the user ID into our data.userLike. So we have this data user likes, and we need to push here the user ID. So let's have the push, and we're going to push the user.uid. Okay, so we get this an error because we have this user like, which is not an optional. So what we can do is we can just make everything optional here. So in the document response, we can just make them optional, because sometimes they can also be empty or they can also be undefined. So I'm going to use the empty here, and I will just remove this. All right, now if we go back here, then we have this data.userLike, and we still get an error. So what I can do is we can just use this. All right, and now let's use the else part. So if it is false, that means the user has now disliked. So what we need to do is, if we need to check that if the user ID is available in the user likes, then we need to just remove that, because now the user has disliked it. So what I will do is I'm going to have the data dot user likes dot splice. We will just use the splice, and we're just going to remove it. Splice, what I will do is we are going to have the data dot user likes dot index of. All right, so we are going to take the index, and then we are just going to remove that particular UID. So we are going to remove that UID by 1. All right, so once we have this, what we need to do is we need to update the data now into the Firestore database. So what I will do is I'm going to have the await. I will write a function update likes on post, and then we are going to pass the information here. So what we are going to pass is we are going to pass the data.id. All right. Along with that, I'm going to use the data.userLikes and then the likes count. So the likes count will be, if this is well, if it's true, then we need to have the likes count as likes info dot likes plus 1, or we are going to pass the likes info dot likes minus 1. All right, so we will pass this information. Now, if we want to check, then what we can do is if we go here and if I click on it, then we get an error because we don't have this function. But what we can do is for the likes, we can just go and we can just show you the likes. So if I go down and now instead of this, what I will use is I'm going to use the likes info dot likes. So this is going to give me the likes count. So now if I go and you see, then it immediately makes 0 or 1. But when it makes 0 or 1, it is just updating on the UI. It is not actually updating into our Firestore database. So we are just doing this for the perspective that the user will see that, okay, the like is immediately, the count gets increased. But in the background, we are also going to update this count into our Firestore database. So that is what we are going to do using this function, which is the update likes on the post. Let's go and let's write this function. So I'm going to go to my repository, and in the repository, in the end, let's create this function. So what I will do is, so I will go here and I'm going to have the export constant update likes on post. I missed the on post, and this is going to be an arrow function. So let's have an arrow function. And in this, what we are going to receive as the argument is the ID, which will be a type of string. Then we are going to use the user likes, and this user like will be of type string array. And the last one will be the likes, which will be a number. All right, and now what I will do is here, once we have this, we are going to take that doc ref, and this will be equals to the doc. We will pass the DB reference, our collection name. All right, and then we are going to pass the ID. So this is going to give us the doc ref, and once we have the doc ref, we are just going to update it. So I'm going to have a return. I will do an update ref, or maybe update doc. This will need our document response, document reference, which we want to update. And then once we have it, we are going to update the likes, which will be the likes. And then we are going to have the user likes, which will be our user likes. All right. So this is how it's going to update it. Now, if you want to try, then we can just try it. So I will refresh it. And if I click on like, okay, it still gave me an error. So let me go and check. So if I go here, then we are going to have the update likes on post. So now it is complaining that it could be an undefined. So we can just use exclamation and tell explicitly that it will not be an undefined. So we are done with this, and now let's give a try. So I'm going to refresh it, and if we click here, then we see that it is 1, and if we go and check, then we should be able to see that this is also gets increased. So you will see that the like is 1, and it also shows that the user like, and this is the ID of the user which has liked. So now if I go here and if I refresh it, then you will be able to see that it's already 1. And if I click again maybe on this one, then this count is 1. We can go and check here. So maybe this one, now we see that this is 1, and we get to store the user ID on the user likes. So that's how the like works. Now if you want to see that if another user log in, whether he sees the like or not, let's go and let's try. I'm going to click on log out. I'm going to log in with a Google account. So let's have the Google account. All right. So I have logged in, and you will see that the like count is 1, but this particular user hasn't liked this post. So that's why this is in the white color. So if I click on it again, then the like will count will 2. If we go here and if we check, then you will see that the user like, now there are 2 user IDs who has liked it. Now if we dislike it, and if we go and see, then you will see that we have already spliced it. So the UID is now removed from the user like. So that's how we are storing this user preference, and we are building this like dislike feature. So now we are done with this. Maybe the next thing what we need to do is we need to work on the user photo and the username. But for these user photo and username, what I will do is, let me show you one thing. So if I refresh it, then you will see that this is the user. Now this user has a property which is the display name, and this user also have a photo URL. So if your user is logged in via Gmail account, then they already have a display name and the photo URL. But if we go and check the other way, if a user is logged in via an email address, then in that case the user doesn't have the display name and the photo URL. So let me clear the console and log in again, and this time you will see that if I go and check, the user has a display name but it's null, and the user has a photo URL which is also a null. So this is a problematic case because without this display name and photo URL, we cannot display the user information on the post. So for that, what we will do is we are going to work on the profile where a user can have their display name and they can have their photo URL, which is can be used it here so that we can show it the user photo and the display name. So now let's go and work on the profile part. All right, so I'm going to go to the profile page. So if we go here, then this is our profile page looks like. So first let's create the state variable and the initial value which will be displayed in the profile. So what I will do is I'm going to start by first having my user. So let's have the user, which will be coming from the use user auth. All right, and once I have it, I will have a initial display to the user. So what I will do is I'm going to have the initial user info. All right, and this will be of type profile response. So what we will do is we will go and we will create some types here. Okay, so first let's go and let's have an export, and I'm going to have an interface, and my interface will be profile info. So for the profile info, what I will do is I'm going to have a user which will be of type Firebase user. Then I will have a display name, and this will be a string, and then I'm going to have the photo URL which will also be a string, and I'm going to use everything as optional because they can be null or they can be undefined. Now this profile info is basically in order to update the display name and the photo URL. So if we go here, then if I go here, then you will see that display name and the photo URL. All right, so this interface is basically used in order to update the display name and the photo URL into the Firebase user. So if I go here, and then if we go to authentication, then in the authentication you will see that this is the user. All right, so in order to update it here, we are going to have this interface. The next interface I'm going to use is for the export interface user profile. So now there is a catch that what I want is I want my user profile to have its display image, display name, and it should also have some user bio. But now if I want the user bio to be stored somewhere, I cannot store it here because this doesn't have any of the property which will just store some data and that can be used. So what I will do is I cannot extend this user object. So that's why I'm going to create a new collection, and in that new collection I'm going to store all this display name, photo URL, and then the user bio information and everything. Let's see, once we do it, you will be able to understand what we are trying to do is. So what I will do here is that I'm going to have my user ID, which will be a string. Let's keep it as optional. Then along with the user ID, I will also have the display name and photo URL. And then the last, I will have the user bio maybe. So I'm going to have the user bio, which will be also be a string. Similarly, we have the post, and then we created a document response, which is the response that we get from the Firestore database because that has the ID of the document as well. So we are going to create a similar for the profile response. So what I will do is I'm going to have a profile, oops, they should be uppercase, and then I'm going to have the profile response. And with this profile response, I will also have the ID. So I will have the ID, and that ID is of type string. So we have created these three interfaces. Now let's go back to the profile and let's work on it. So the initial, it will be look like a profile response, and that will be equals to, we are going to have the ID as empty string. Then we are going to have the user ID, and that user ID will be the logged in user dot UID. Okay. Then we are going to have the user bio, and the user bio will be simply please update your bio. Then we are going to have the photo URL. So for the photo URL, if a user has already a photo URL, then in that case, what we will do is we are going to use the photo URL from that. But if it doesn't have, then for that case, we are going to use the user photo URL, and if it's not, we are going to use it as an empty string. And the last one is the display name. So for the display name, similarly, if a logged in user already have a display name, then we are going to display the user display name, and if not, then we are just going to have a guest user. So maybe now you will understand that this initial response or the initial user info is what being displayed on our profile. So if a user is a logged in user via Google account, then in that case that user will already have the photo URL and already have a display name. But if a user is logged in via a simple email address, then in that case the user will not have the photo URL, so we keep it as an empty, and the user will also not have a display name, so we keep it as a guest user. Now we have this initial user info. Now we are going to create the state variable for the user info. So I'm going to have the user info, then we are going to have the set user info, which will be equals to the use state, and then we need to pass the type. So this will be the profile response, and then it will have the initial user info. So once we have this initial user info, we can just display it. So what I will do is I'm going to go here and remove this, and then I will just use a div which will have a class name of flex justify center. After that, I will have another div. I'm going to have a class name, and I'm going to use it as a border. Max width will be 3 XL. Then I will have the width as full. All right, and after that what I will do is I'm going to have an h3 tag where I will use a class name. So this will be the background slate 800. Then I'm going to have the text as white. Then I will have the text center, and we are going to use the text as large, and the padding will be 2. And in this, what I will do is I'm going to have the profile. Now we can go and check. So if I go and then we see that we have the profile here. After that, what we will do is we are going to have a div, and I'm going to use the class name. So the class name would be, I will have the padding as 8, then padding bottom as 4, and I will have the border bottom. All right, so we have this border bottom, and then inside that I'm going to have a div. So I'm going to give a class name here, and this class name will be the flex. I will have the flex row. All right, I will have my items in the center. I will have the padding bottom as 2 and margin bottom as 2. And inside that, what I will do is I'm going to have a div with the class name of margin right as 2, and then we are going to have the image for the avatar. So I will have the image source. All right, and I will also have the alt tag, and then I'm going to have the class name. So the image will have a width of 28, height of 28, rounded full. Then we are going to have the border. So let me have the border as 2, border slate as 800, and then we are going to have the object as cover. So right now we are just trying to build the UI of how our profile will look like. So if we go, then we have to specify the alt. So the alt will be avatar, or maybe this is a string, so we just need to have a quotes here, and then we need to pass an image for the avatar. So what I will do is I'm going to copy and I'm going to put it here. All right, and this avatar image will be coming from the assets images, so I'm just going to add an image here. All right, so we have this avatar image. Now we can just use this and put it here. All right, so if we go and we see that we have this image here. So here what we will do is, first let's have that if through the user info, if we have this photo URL, then in that case we are going to display this info.photo URL. If not, then we are going to display the avatar. All right, so we will see this avatar here. Now once we have this, we will also need to have our username just beside the image. So what I will do is I'm going to have a div. I will have a class name as text hyphen XL and margin left as 3. All right, and here I'm going to display the user info dot display name. All right, after the display name, what I will do is I will also need to have my email address. So I will have a div class name. I will use the same text XL, margin left as 3, and here what I will do is that if the user has an email, if it's true, then I will have to use the user email. If not, then I will just use the guest email, or maybe I will not display anything. All right, then after that what we will do is we need to display the user bio. So I'm going to go here, I will have a div and I'm going to use the class name, and I will have the margin bottom as 4, and then here we can use the user bio. So user info dot user bio. All right, once we have the user bio, what I will do is I will also have a button which will help us to edit the profile. So I will have a div. Inside the div, I'm going to use the button. All right, and on click of the button, I'm going to have my edit profile. All right, and then I'm going to use the edit.to icon. I'm going to use the class name, margin right as 2, height as 4, width as 4, and this will be self-closing. So I'm just going to remove it and then have a self-closing. All right, and then I will write the edit profile. Okay, so we have this edit profile button, and in the end what I can do is I can also use the same post that we display it on the my photos. So I will just put it here, and let's have a div. I'm going to have a class as p8. Into that I'm going to have the h2. I'm going to use the class name as margin bottom 5, and then I'm going to have my post, and then below the my post I'm going to use the div class name. I will use the grid columns as 2. Then for medium devices I'm going to grid the grid columns as 3. So this will be for the medium device, so it will be MD, and then we will just give a gap. So I'm going to have the gap as 2. And here what we will do is if we have the data, then we are going to use the render post, and if not, then I will just have a div, and I will have my closing div, and I will just use dot loading. Now we need to get this data and the render data. So what we can do is we can just get these two from our my photos. So if I go here in the my photos, I will go up, I will just copy this and I will put it in the profile. So I'm going to go up, I have this state here, and then I will just put it here. Then I will go back here, I'm going to copy this function, and I will also copy these two. So copy, I will go here and put it here, and I will have it saved. All right, let's go and let's check, but we see that we have a couple of errors here. So we have to use the document response. Then we will also have to use the get post by user ID, and we need to use the post. All right, and in the end we will also need to have this render posts. So let's go and let's change that. So let's go and let's copy the render post here. So I'm going to go here, I will copy this, and I'm going to put it here. All right, we will also need to have this heart icon. So let's import that heart icon, and now if we try to refresh, then we see that we get a couple of errors. So let's fix those errors. So we need to define the edit profile function. So let's go and let's write the edit profile function. So I'm going to go here, I will have a constant edit profile. This will be equals to an arrow function, and then we have this function. All right, now we have the edit profile function, and let's see what the other errors we get it. So render post is not defined. Okay, let's go and let's check. So here this will be post, and now we have defined it. So now we see that we have the post here. We see that there is an error here, not error, but there is some mismatch in the alignment. Let's fix that mismatch. So if we go and if we see that if we click here, then we have to put these two inside the div. So I'm going to cut it, put it here and save it. And now if we go and check, then we see that this is how it looks like. We have the user profile image, we have the guest user. Okay, this should not be in the same line, so let's go and let's fix that. Okay, so if I go here, I will have a div. All right, I will cut that div and I will put it here. So now it should be like this way. So now you will see that we have this profile image. We haven't returned anything on the edit profile, but on this profile image you will see that if I will first log out, and now I will show you that if a user is logged in via the Google account, how the profile will look like. So if we go here and I'm going to log in via the Google account, so this time the profile will look a little bit different. So if I click on it, then you will see that the profile looks a little bit different. We see that we have the page here because it's already have a display name, and we see that we have a email address, and we get all this information from here. We see the display name, we see the email, we also have a photo URL, but somehow the photo URL is not working here. But then we don't have the bio for this user, so this user can actually update a bio using click on the edit profile. So now let's work on this edit profile, and this is how our post looks like. So what I will go back to the Visual Studio Code, and for the edit profile, what I will do is I'm going to create a new file here, and I will have the edit profile.tsx. I'm going to use tsrsc, and this is going to be an edit profile. All right, now on this edit profile, what will happen is we need to add it in the routes as well. So let's go to the routes, and in the routes in the bottom, what I will do is I will go here, copy, and I'm going to put it here, and this will be the edit profile. All right, now this will get changed to the edit profile. All right, so now we have the route for the edit profile, and this is how the edit profile looks like. So first, let's create the JSX for this edit profile. All right, so I'm going to use a very similar what we have it in the post. So let me go here, and I'm going to copy, and I'm going to edit in the edit profile. So let me go here, and I will have save it. All right, now let's import everything. So I'm going to use the layout. So we have the layout for handle submit form. We will keep it as it is. This will be label, and this will be the text area. So I'm going to change this to text area. All right, we will keep it as it is. We will have the file uploader here as well. So I'm going to have the file uploader. We're going to use the button. So let's import the button, and everything will be the same. All right, so now let's start. So what I will do first is we're going to change this to edit profile. So I'm going to have the edit profile here. All right, and for the edit profile, what we will do is we are also going to create the state. So let's have the state. And usually this state we will get it from our profile. So whenever from the profile, if someone is click on the edit profile, we are going to pass some data. So let's pass that data first. So I'm going to use the navigate to navigate the user. So I'm going to go here on the top, and I'm going to create a constant navigate, which will be equals to the use navigate. All right, and you must be seeing that why are we putting the post here? It's just an optional. If you don't want, you just remove them so that you will not have a lot of unnecessary code on this page. All right, so now we have navigate. Now what we will do is whenever a user click on the edit profile, the user will navigate to the edit profile page. So we're going to have a navigate, and then user will go to the edit profile, and with this edit profile I will also pass the profile information. So I will pass it as a state. All right, and on the state I will pass the user info. All right, so once we pass the data with the user info in the edit profile, we can fetch this data as using the location. So let's use the use location. So I'm going to go here. I will have a constant. I will have a location which will be equals to the use location hook. Now once I have the location, I can actually get the data. So I will have a constant, and I will just destructure. I will have the ID, then I'm going to have the user ID, then I will have the user bio, I will have the display name, I will have the photo URL. And all this information is available on the location dot state. Okay, let me have a constant. I will create a state variable which I can use. So I will have a data dot set data, which will be equals to the use state. All right, and here I have to pass information. So here it will be the user profile information. So this user profile will be coming from the types, and let's have the initial user profile, how it looks like. So we are going to have the user ID. All right, we are going to have the user bio, we are going to have the display name, and we are going to have the photo URL. So we need to take this user data, or maybe the user profile, and we need to store it in the collection which we are going to create. So we will also need to have this file entry and the set file entry state. So we are using the same thing which we used it in the post. So if we go to the post, then you will see that we have a very similar here. So I'm going to copy this, and I will also put it here, and I will go here, and I will have the file entry. So now we will not have any error on this. We will also change this. Instead of the handle submit, what we will have here is we are going to have the update profile. All right, so we have this update profile. I'm going to create a function here, constant update profile, which will be an arrow function. All right, so now I think we have to just change this. So what I have to do is first we're going to have the edit profile, then we are going to have a form, and in that form first we will have the label, and this label here we are going to change it profile picture, and this will change to profile picture. All right, so first of all, maybe we will have the photos first. So I'm going to take the div for the photos, I'm going to cut it, and the first thing we will do is we are going to have this form, and just below the form we are going to have this photo. So we are going to have this as profile picture, okay, and we will keep it as photos. Then we are going to have this file uploader where we are going to have this, and before that we are also going to here have the profile image. So what I will do is I'm going to have a div, I will have a class name and margin bottom as 4. All right, and here what I will do is that we are going to have the image, I will have the source, and then I'm going to have the alt as avatar. All right, I will have the class name, and then I'm just close this tag. And for this I'm going to use the same avatar image. So maybe for this one what we will do is we have this data, so let's have the use of that data. So what I will do is if we have this data dot photo URL, then in that case display the data dot photo URL, else you display the avatar. All right, we need to get this avatar, so I will go to the profile, I will copy this avatar, and then I'm going to use it here. So let's go here and use it here. So we have the avatar, and then we need to give some class names here. So let's use the same class name what we have it in our profile. So I'm going to go bot down, and I'm going to use the same thing. So I will just copy and I'm going to use it here. All right, we can go and check. So if I refresh it, then this is how my profile looks like. If I click on the edit, it gives me an error. That's very good. So let's go and let's see what the error is. Post is not defined on line number 56. So yeah, definitely we need to fix all this first. So we have this one. Now for the profile image, we have this one, we have the file uploader, and after the file uploader, what the next thing we will do is we are going to have our display name. For the display name, I will simply going to use this maybe. So we have the label, or maybe I will do a copy, and I'm going to copy and paste it here. And instead of this, I will have the display name, and here I'm going to have the display name, or maybe you can give it username. Here I'm going to use the input. So I have the input. For the input I have the class name, ID will get changed to display name, placeholder will get changed to enter your username, the value will be data dot display name, and on change you will get an event which will be HTML input element, and then you are going to have the set data. You're going to take all the data, you're going to just change the display name. All right, so you have this display name, and then after display name you will have this text area for the user bio. So this will get changed to user bio, and I'm going to change this to profile bio. All right, I'm going to copy this caption and change this here, copy this HTML4 and change it here, what's in your mind. All right, and here it will get changed to data dot user bio. This will get changed to set data. This will be the data, and we are just going to change the user bio. So I'm going to have the user bio, and this is how it will look like. After that, what we will need to do is we need to have two buttons. One will be for the update and the other one will be for the cancel. So what I will do is I'm going to change this to 4. I will keep it as it is, and margin right as 8, and I'm going to change the button as update. I will copy and have the second button. So I'm going to copy, I will have the second button, and for the second button I will have the variant, and this will be destructive, and this time the type I'm going to remove this. And here what I will do is I'm going to simply have the on click. So whenever we click on it, it will just navigate us back to the profile. So I'm going to use the use navigate. So let's use that. So I'm going to go on the top, and here I will have the constant, I will have the navigate, and this will be equals to the use navigate. So I'm going to change this, and is equals to the use navigate. All right, now let's go at the bottom and then use it. So I'm going to use a navigate. I will also change this to cancel, and now let's give a try. So what I will do is I'm going to save it, and then I will go back here, and what we can do is if I refresh it, we see this profile, and I'm going to click on the edit profile, and we see a simple icon here. So I'm going to go and inspect it, and we see that something is coming from the Lucid. So what I will do is I'm going to go here and check. We see that the layout is coming from the Lucid, which is not correct. We want to use our own layout component. So what I will do is I'm going to use the layout, and this will be the layout component. Now if I go, then we see that this is how our edit profile looks like. We have have the profile picture, then we have the upload file, and we have our display name, and we have this bio, we have the update, and if we click on the cancel, we go back to our profile. And if we click on edit, now here what we need to do is we can upload a picture, then we can have a display name, we can also update our profile bio, and then when we click on the update, we will have to create a record into our user profile collection. So for that, we need to create a new collection which will be the user profile. Alright, so let's go back to our Visual Studio Code, and in the Visual Studio Code I will go here and I will create a new file which will be the user.service.ts. Alright, and on this user.service.ts I'm going to copy from here a few stuff. So I will just copy all this stuff because we will need the same thing. So I will copy and I'm going to put it here. All right, and here instead of the post, we are going to have the user profile, or maybe we will just have the users collection. And here I'm going to remove this. We don't want this, so I'm going to remove them. And what we will do is, first function that we need to write is, if we go here, we're going to have the export constant create user profile, and this is going to take a user which is going to have a type of user profile. And then what we will do is we are going to use a try catch block. So I'm going to have a catch here, and if it's an error, then we are going to have a console log of the error. So I will have the console dot log, and I'm going to have the error. But if it's not an error, then in that case what I will do is I will return, and I will have the add doc where I will pass the collection. So I will have my DB reference collection name. All right, and then I will have the user. So I will have the user. So this is what the create users look like the create user profile. The next will be to get the user profile based on the user ID. So for that, what I will do is I'm going to go here. I will have the export constant get user profile, which will be an arrow function, and we are going to pass the ID, which will be the user ID, and that will be of type string. We're going to use the async here. All right, and now here we're going to use the try catch block. If it's an error, I'm going to use the console.log, and I will log the error. And for the try block, what I will do is, first let's create the query. So it will be very similar how we do the get post by user ID. So we are going to create the query. So let me copy it. So I'm going to copy, I will put it here. We have the query, and we are going to pass the user ID. So this will be the user ID. Now, once we have the query, we are going to receive a query snapshot, which will be equals to the await.getDocs. Now, once we have the docs, we are going to have a query snapshot dot size. If this size is greater than 0, then we will do something else. We are going to have a console.log, and here we will have the no such document. Now, if it's the size is greater than 0, then we are going to loop through. So I will have a query snapshot dot for each, and we are going to get a doc here. All right, and from the doc, what we will do is we are first going to have a constant. We are going to have the data, which will be equals to the doc dot data, and this data will be of type user profile. So you will see that this very similar thing we have done it for the post as well. So here you won't see anything on the post, but if we go into our home first, and in the home you might see something. Yep, you will see that we have the get post, and on the guest post we did a very similar thing. We are going to do the same thing here as well. So here it is the temporary array, but in this case the user profile will be a single document. We will not have a multiple user profiles with the same user ID. So we are not going to have in multiple records in the array. So we have this data. Then what we will do is or maybe I will just change it to user data. Now we have this user data, and what I will do is let's create a constant or temporary variable, maybe a temp data, which will be equals to the we need to give a type. So the type will be profile response, and it will be an empty array first. Now we have the user. So what I will do is I'm going to have this temp data, and this temp data will have the ID first. So ID will be doc.id, and then we are going to have this user data. Now once we have this temp data, we are just going to return this. So let's return the temp data, All right, and if there is no such document, in that case also we are going to return the temp data. So we are going to return the temp data. So if there is no record, we are going to have an empty object, but if there are record, then we are going to return this. All right, we have to change this to let because it's not a constant. So now this looks fine. We have this get user profile as well, and the last function is to update the user profile. So what I will do is, if we want to update it, then I'm going to have a export constant. I will have the update user profile, all right, which will be equals to an async arrow function, and on this we are going to get the id which we want to update. So this will be a type of string, and then we are going to get the user, which is the updated user. So this will be a user profile, and then let's get the doc ref first. So I will have the document reference, which will be equals to the doc. We are going to use the db reference, our collection name, and then we need to pass the id to get the document reference. Once we get the doc ref, we are going to use the update doc. So I will have the update doc where we need to have our doc ref and then the updated value. So I will have all the updated values here. All right, so we have the update profile, we have the get user profile, and we also have the create user profile. Now we will just remove whichever we don't want. So all this function we don't want them, so I'm going to remove them. Now we can just use this. So what I will do is, let's go to the edit profile. So in the edit profile, we are going to use this update profile function. Let's have an async which is going to get an event. So let's have an event, and this event will be the react.mouse event, and we are going to have the HTML form element. Now the first thing we need to do is we need to use the event.prevent default. All right, and we see that we missed the angular bracket. Now before doing this update profile, let's first work on this file uploader, and let's see how it works. So we are going to use the same file uploader which we used it for the post. So if we go up, then we will use the same, but in the post we can upload multiple images, but here we can only upload a single image. Also in the post there was a preview of the images that we upload, which we don't want it here. So what I will do is, we are just going to do some configuration on this. So I will go to the edit profile, and here I will pass an additional prop. So the additional prop will be the preview. All right, and for the preview I'm going to pass it as false. All right, now we need to handle this. So let's go here, and here what I will do is I will go on the top, and we're going to add an additional prop here, which will be the preview, and that preview will be a boolean. Once we get it, we are going to use the preview here, and we will also use the preview here. So if I go here, for the multiple, we're going to use the preview. So if we pass the preview as false, then it will have the multiple as false, and it will not allow the user to upload multiple images. Apart from that, we will also we don't want the preview of the images. So here we are going to add the additional condition. So what I will do is that if we have this preview true, then in that case we display this, and if it false, then in that case we will just display the empty fragment. So I'm going to add it here. Now this is how it will look like, but we will also get an error for the post. So let's go and fix in the post. So I will go to the post, and in the post where we add this file uploader, then here we need to add a preview, and this preview will be true. All right, so now the same file uploader will work for both the cases, in the edit profile as well as the create post. So we have this. Now if we try, then let's go back here. I will try to upload an image here. So I'm going to click here. Let's upload a new image. Maybe I will upload this one. I will click on open, and this is going to upload it. So we are going to get all the events. I'm going to click on done. Then we see that the image is uploaded. But what we want to do is, we want to make a preview of the uploaded image. So what I will do is, let's go back to our Visual Studio Code, and in the Visual Studio Code we get the updated image in this file entry. So what I will do is, if we go and let's have a console.log, and I will the file entry is all right, and I will have the file entry maybe. All right, and let's see what we get it here. So I'm gonna cut this and maybe put it here. All right, and now let's give a try. So I'm gonna close this. Now if I click here, if we click here, and if I try to upload this image, all right, and then I'm going to click on done, then we see that the file entry, and the file entry has this image and the UUID. So we need to display this image because the profile picture is now updated. So what we can do is if we go back here, then once we have this updated, we need to do two things. So what I will do is I'm going to just go here and I will first update the state because now this photo URL is already updated. So let's update the state. So to update the state, what I will do is I'm going to use the use effect. So this is going to have an use effect, and this use effect will only run whenever the file is updated. All right, so I'm going to have the file entry dot files dot length is greater than 0. Then in that case, I'm going to use the set data where I will have my all the data, and then I will just update the photo URL. So I will have the photo URL will be equals to the file entry dot files of 0 dot cdn URL, and if not, then I will just keep it as empty. All right, so we are running the use effect to update the state, and we are just going to pass the file entry. This should only have a dependency on the file entry. Now we have this, and what we will also do is that we have this image. Now we are going to update this image as well, the image source. So I will go here and I will here have the file entry dot files dot length, and if this length is greater than 0, then in that case what we have to do is we need to use this image here, and if it's false, then we have to use another image here. So if it's greater than 0, that means this will now get changed, and here we are going to have the file entry dot files of 0, and then we are going to have the cdn URL. All right, I'm going to remove all this stuff now. All right, and now it's complaining me that it could be a null, so I can just tell them no, it cannot be a null. So this is how it will look like, and this will be the other case. Now let's give a try. So if I go and we see that we have two images here, that means we have something mistake here. So let's go and let's check. All right, I will go back and check again. So we see that we have this image, and we also have an image here. So let's remove this image. All right, now it should be work fine. So now if we upload a new profile picture, so let's upload a new profile picture. I'm going to open. All right, I'm going to click on done. Then you should be able to see that we have this new profile picture. And you can also do one thing, that this is a profile picture we are taking. If we go to the Uploadcare, so let me go to the Uploadcare. So I'm going to have the Uploadcare, and in the optimization or maybe image transformation, you will see if we go to the overview and resize, then you will be able to see that if you don't want to transform the image on your UI side, maybe you don't want to use any CSS, then you can just simply use the smart cropped and border radius directly, which will give you a circular image as your profile image directly.
Now let me show you, if you want to do it via the Uploadcare API, how you can do the profile image circular. So let's take an image from here. So I will just copy this image and I will put the image here. Now you can just apply the, so I'm going to hit enter, and you see this is the image. Now you can just apply the attributes in the API, and then you will be able to get it circular. And I'm going to use the scale crop. So let's have the scale crop. So we are going to use the scale crop, and with the scale crop, let's give the dimension. So I'm going to give the dimension as 300 by 300. So this is going to make the image 300 by 300. Now what we want to do is, along with the scale crop, we will also use the smart, and then we are going to provide the border radius. So let's have the border radius, and the border radius will be 50, and then you will see that now we have the image in a circular, and you can just use it as it is, and you don't need to apply any CSS. Now there's another way. If you want to do it, then what we can do is we can also use the other APIs here. So the other attributes which I want to show you is maybe the crop. You can also use the crop, and you can just crop the face, and then you can apply the radius. So let's try to do that. So what I will do is we are going to have a preview, and then we will crop the face, so that will just give us the face. All right, so now you see that we have the face, and now what we will do is we are going to change the dimension. Let's have 200 by 200. So we will have the 200 by 200. Then we are going to use a crop with an aspect ratio 1:1, and after that we are just going to use the center. Let's try what it looks like. Okay, we had some mistakes here. So let's have the center, and then with the center we are going to use the border radius, and we are going to use the border radius as 50p. So we see that we made a mistake. We need to give the here as 200 pixel, and we are going to use 200p here. And here you will see that now we have a perfect border radius, and we have a perfect image which we can use it for the avatar.
So this is also one of the good way. If you want to use it, you can just use it and have the API parameters into your CDN URL. So now we get the image, updated profile picture. Here we have the display name. We can also update the user bio. So this maybe I write, I am a technical content creator. And now when we click on the update, we have to update the user information. All right, so let's go and let's do that. So we have this part, and whenever now user click on the update, let's go to the update function. Oops, where is the update? Yeah, update function. And in this update function, let's do a try catch. So here what I will do is, if I have an ID, so let me go here. So here what we will do is, from the profile we pass this information. Now if we have this ID, that means we have already created a record in our user collection. But if we have this ID as an empty, that means the user is not yet created. So if you want to see the console log of it, let's do a console log of it. So I'm going to have a console.log of the location state is, and we are going to have here the location dot state, and why it complains for an error. So let's go and let's see. Yeah, so we have this ID here. I'm going to change this. I will have a catch block here which will have the error, and I'm going to have the console.log. Let's put an error here. All right, in the try block I will have maybe a simple constant, a is equals to 5. All right, so now let's go and let's see. So if we go here and if we go to the console, I'm going to refresh my page, and when I refresh my page, you will see that let's go and let's see where the log entry is. Yeah, this is what the state is. But this time you will see that the ID is empty because we haven't created any record in our user collection. So if I go to Firestore database, then we don't see any users here. All right, so that's why you will see it as an empty. That means if it's an empty, we need to create a new record. So let's go and let's do that. So I'm going to go here and I will have that if I have the ID, then in that case I have to do something else. What I have to do is I will have to create a record. So I'm going to have a response which will be equals to the await, and we are going to have a create user profile. All right, and then we need to pass the data. I will just console.log it. So I will have a console log, and the created user profile is, so I'm going to have a response here. All right, but if it's not, then in that case we have to update the user profile. So what I will do is I'm going to have a constant response which is equals to the await update user profile, and then in that user profile we have to pass the ID which we want to update, and then we need to pass the user information which we want to update, not user, the data, sorry. And then we can also have a console log here. So I will have a console dot log, and I will have the updated user profile is, and then we can just log it. So I will have a response. All right, so we have these both scenarios. Now if you want to check, then let's go and let's check. So I'm going to remove this, and I will have my picture uploaded first. So let's have this as a picture. I'm going to open. Okay, I'm going to click on done, and then maybe I will also change the bio. So I am a technical content creator. Okay, I will just correct the spelling of technical. All right. And now if we click on the update, then we should be able to see the created user profile. So the user profile is now created. If we go here and if we refresh it, then we should be able to see a new users. All right, so you see that this is the user information and this is what we have created. So whenever you create a new record in your users or you update the existing record, you have this information which is a display name, photo URL, user bio, and user ID. But when you update this, it's important that you also update it in your Firebase user. So I will show you how, what I'm trying to say it. So first let's go. If we update it in the click, we have to navigate back to our profile. Okay, so I'm going to go back here. And after this updation, what we have to do is everything is done. Then we will just use the navigate, and then we will navigate back to the profile. All right, and this should be here actually. So we navigate back to the profile, and then we are going to have the updated information. So if I go back here, and now if I next time if I try to click on the update, this time it is going to update it. So I'm going to cancel this and I will refresh it. Now you will see that we don't get the updated information of the user profile, although we have already updated the user profile. So what we will do is, on the profile page, we always have to fetch the profile from our collection, which we haven't done it yet. So if we go back to our profile, okay, let me close which we don't want it. So I'm going to close this stories, we will close it, file uploader, we will close it. On the profile, you will see that we never fetch the updated profile from the Firestore database. So we need to do that. So let's do that first. So what I will do is I will go in the end, and here I will have a constant, and on that constant I will have a get user profile, which will be equals to the async, and here we are going to pass the user ID, all right, which will be of type string. I'm going to have the arrow function, and inside this what we are going to do is we are going to get the constant data, which will be the profile response, all right, and this will be equals to the await, and we are going to have the get user. So I'm going to change the name, so I will change this to get user profile info, and this will become get user profile, all right, and then here we have to pass the user ID, and if it's not the case, then we are going to put it as an empty object. So we have this, and what we will do is next we are going to have the data, and once we have the data, then in that case, if we have the data, in that case we are going to use the set user info, and we are going to set the data. We are setting it in the state variable. So if let me minimize all these functions, I will minimize this as well, and we are setting it on the user info because that is our state variable to display all the user information. All right, now we will call this. So I'm going to cut this and put it in the end. Now we are going to use it. I'm going to use the get user profile info. All right, and then I'm going to pass the user UID. All right, and we get the data. Let's give a try. So if I go and let's go to home first. All right, so we have this on the home. Now if I go to the profile, I get the updated profile information. If I click on the edit, if I upload a new picture, so let's upload a new picture. Maybe I will upload this one. I'm going to click open. All right, it's getting uploaded. All right, so it's got uploaded to the Uploadcare CDN. Now if I click on done, then we see the profile picture is updated, and I will also change this to DM maybe. All right, and I will have that I am also a traveler. All right, I'm going to click on update, and you will see that as soon as I click on the update, it's get updated. I get the updated information, and I also get the updated information here. Now the problem is that once you update it in your user collection, you also need to update the same information into your user object, which is a Firebase user object. If I go up, then you will see here is still the old name, and here still we have the old picture. So we will also update this. Now I will show you how you can update the Firebase user object. All right, so now let's go back. Now I will go to the edit profile, and in the edit profile we have this updated. Now once we do this, before moving back to the profile page, we also need to update it on the user object, which is the Firebase user object. So let's go to the context. I will go here. So in the context, I will come here. I will have a constant. We have a update profile info, which will be equals to, you need to provide the profile info, and this will be of type profile info in our types. It's an arrow function. All right, and then what we can do is we can just do a console log here. Console log the user profile info is, and then we can have the profile info here. All right, and once we have this, what we will do is we are going to use the return, and we have a update profile function. So I will have the update profile function in the Firebase auth, and this function will going to take the profile dot user. All right, we get the user, and after that what we have to do is we are going to have a display name as profile info dot display name, and we are going to have the photo URL as profile info dot photo URL. All right, and we are getting a complaint here, so we can just add an exclamation and make sure that this will not be undefined. Now we will use this update profile into our context data. So this is our context data. I'm going to have the type of update profile. If I scroll down, we will also use it here. So I'm going to have the update profile. All right. And we will use it here in the context data, which will be the update profile. So we have everything. Now, if we go here, and what we will do is I'm going to go here and I'm going to use the function, which is the update profile. So for that, I have to extract that. Okay. So we can go here, and here what I will do is I'm going to have the constant. I will have the user, and then I will also have the update profile info, and this will be coming from the use user auth. All right. So we have this use user auth and we have the update profile. Now we can just use it. So I will have the update profile info, and here I can pass the information that I want to update. So I will have my profile info, but before that we need to create this profile info. So what I will do is I'm going to have a constant profile info, which will be of type profile info, and here what we will do is we are going to have the user. So we're going to take the user, we are going to have the display name, we are going to take the display name from data.display name, and we are going to have the photo URL, we are going to take the photo URL from data.photo URL. It's complaining about the user. Let's add an exclamation and then we pass it here. Now if we want to check, then let's go and let's check. So if I go here, right now it is showing me the old name. What I will do is I'm going to edit it. Let's change to the Malvia, and I'm going to remove this, and I'm going to also change the picture. So let's have the picture this time as maybe this one. I'm going to click open. All right, it's uploaded, and now if I click on it, then it gets uploaded, and if I click on the update, then you will see that it's got updated. But if we want to go and check on the user, then let's go and let's check on the user. So I will go here and you see the user profile updated. So now if I go back on the home, and if we get the user, okay, we don't get the user. If I go to the profile, do we get any user? So we just need to see that it's updated on the user or not. So if we go here, we don't see it. If we go to the profile, we don't see it. Okay, maybe we will try it again. So what I will do is I'm going to click on edit. On the edit, if we go and check the user, so let's see what the user is. So we will just see that we are logging the user information on the profile or not. So if we go to the profile, okay, this is the profile. What I will do is I'm going to do a console.log, and the logged in user profile info is, and we are going to have the user here. All right, so now if we go back to the, I will clear the console. If we go to the profile, we see the logged in user profile is this one. And now let's go and let's change. I'm going to click on the edit profile. I will change this to the page M, and I will also change this URL. Maybe let's change this to this one. I'm going to click open. I'm going to click on done. All right, it's updated. Now if I click on the update, let's see what happens. So I'm going to click on update, and we see that it's got updated. So if we go and if we see, then the value is updated here, and also the photo URL is updated. So that means we are updating at both the places. We are also updating it in the user collection, which is this one, and we are also updating it in the Firebase user object, which is this one. So now we are done with this. Now the only thing we need to do is if we go on the home, then we need to display the user picture, and we also need to display the username. And that what we are going to do is since we are using the documents and not the relational database, so for that we can just use some duplication. So what I will do is whenever you create a new post, at that time at the creation of the post, you will also have two more fields, which is the username and the profile photo. So what I will do is right now I will just delete all the post, because we are going to update this with the new fields. So what I will do is I'm going to delete this doc. I will also delete this document, and I will also delete this document. All right, so all documents are deleted. Now we are going to update our post object. So let's go to the interface. So I'm going to go to the interface, and in the interface, what we will do is we are going to have the post. And when you have the post, so along with the post, we are also going to have the user name, which is going to be a string. And then we are going to have the photo URL, which is also be a string. So we have this, maybe I will just put it as optional, because so I'm going to remove this. And then similarly, when we have the document response, we are also going to get those information. So I'm going to get the username of type string, and I will also get the photo URL of type string. All right, so we get these two. Now what we will do is let's go to the post creation. So I'm going to go to the post creation. All right, and in the post creation, whenever you have this new post, in this new post we are going to add the username, which will be coming from the user dot display name. All right, and then the other one, which will be the photo URL, and that will be coming from the user dot photo URL. So we are already updating it in the Firebase user object, so we can easily fetch the display name and the photo URL from it. Right, it's complaining. Let's put it like this. All right, and I will also remove this, and we see that it's also complaining here. It could be a null. So what we can do is we can add an exclamation so that we will tell him that no, it cannot be a null. So now when you create a post, you will automatically get a username and the photo URL in it. So let's go and let's try. What I will do is I'm going to go here and I will create a new post, and I will write that something is happening in the universe. All right, let's upload a photo for that, and I'm going to upload a photo, maybe this one, and I'm going to click on done, and I'm going to change this because this doesn't matches. So I will have the dockerize Node.js apps. All right, I'm going to click on the post, and then we see that the post is created. Now when the post is created, if we go and check here in the post, then we will see that we get an additional field, which is the photo URL, and we also get the username. So now this photo URL and username can be displayed here. So let's go and let's do that. So I'm going to go to the home, not exactly home, we will go to the postcard. All right, and in the postcard, what we will do is we are going to get this document response. Now let's go and let's add it. So here, instead of the guest user, I'm going to add the data dot username, and for the image I'm going to add the data dot photo URL. Let's go and let's check, and now you see that we get the image and we also get the name here. All right, now we also get a guest user here. Let's go and let's change that. So I'm going to go here, this will get changed to data dot username. All right, so now we get everything. Now this is all good. Now we have this and we also have this. Now one thing we need to do is that if we go into the profile, and now if we change the profile image, so if I go and edit, I'll change a profile image. Let's give a profile image as this one. I'm going to click open. I'm going to click done. All right, I'm going to change this to Malvia, and I'm going to click on update. Then you will see that it's get updated here. All right, but what happens if we go to the home? On the home, we still see the old. So that means what we need to do is whenever we update the profile, we also need to update all the documents of that user so that we can get an updated username and the profile. So what we will do is, this is the last part we need to do. So let's go to the edit profile now, because since we are not using relational database, so we're not taking a reference directly from the user profile. And I will do one thing. Let's go to the edit profile, and in the edit profile, what we will do is we are going to edit that part. So I will go here and I will have the update user info on post. All right, and we pass the same user profile info. Now we don't have this function. Let's create this function. So I'm going to copy, and we will go to the post service because this is on the post. So similarly, update like on the post, we are going to update the user info on the post. So I'm going to go to the post here. I will have the export constant. Then we are going to have this arrow function. All right, and we're going to use async. All right, and this is going to give us some argument, which is the profile info of type profile info. Once we have it, what we will do is first we are going to query to get all the posts of the user. So let's use the same query. So we have used it a couple of times. So I'm going to copy this and I'm going to add it here. Once we query to get all the posts based on the user ID, so I have to pass the user ID. So let's have the profile info dot user dot ID, or maybe UID. Now this is going to give me all the posts created by this user. Let's go and let's have the constant query snapshot, which will be equals to the await get docs, and based on the query we created. All right, now if this query snapshot dot size is greater than 0, then in that case we have to do something else. What we will do is we are going to have the console dot log, and we see that the user doesn't have any post. Okay, so the user doesn't have any post. Now what we will do is, for this query snapshot, let's loop through all the documents. So this is going to have a for each. We are going to get a document. Now once we get a document, what we will do is we are going to take that document ID and get the reference of that document. So I'm going to have the doc ref, which is equals to the doc. We need to pass the DB instance collection name, and then we have to pass the document dot ID. All right, now this is going to give me that particular document reference which we want to update. So what I will do is I'm going to fire the update doc, where I will have to give the doc ref. All right, and then here what I have to do is I will have the user name maybe, and this username will be equals to the profile info dot display name. Then I'm going to have the photo URL, and this photo URL will be equals to the profile info dot photo URL. And that's all. That's what we need to do. So now let's go back here, and we need to import this. So update user. So this should be uppercase user, and I will also change it here as well. So I'm going to go here, change this to update user info on post. So now let's give a try. So if I go back here, and if I go here and if I refresh it, then I see the old one. Yeah, then what I will do is I will go to the profile and I'm going to edit it. I'm going to upload it. So I will have the new profile as maybe this one. I'm going to click open. All right, I'm going to click done, and then I will just click on the update, and we see that which is updated. And if I go on the home, then we see that we get the updated information. Now this one we are using it via the Gmail login. Let's go and let's try the other user. So I'm going to log out, and I'm going to try the other user. All right, I'm going to have the password. I'm going to click on login. All right, so now we see that we have this. Now if I go to the profile, and this is my default profile, you see that I have no profile image and the username and anything else. So first I will update my profile image. So I'm going to click here, and let's edit the profile image with this. All right, so it's done. Now I'm going to click on done, and we also need to give the username because there's no username. So I am King. All right, and for the user profile bio, what I will do is I am a food lover and travel blogger. All right, I'm going to click on update. Okay, so we get an error that Firebase add doc with invalid data, unsupported field, undefined found in the field user ID in document. So let's go and let's try to fix that. So what I will do is let's go to our profile, and let's go to our profile first. So I'm going to go to I will just close all this. Okay, I will close this, and this is my profile. Okay, so for the profile, for the username, what we are trying to show here is that if we go to the render post, here we have the display name. We are not displaying any email address if it's not available, and we only display the user info display name. We can also make that if it's not available, then if it's available, then in that case we display this. All right, and if not, then we display the guest user. If we go back and check, then we see we have a guest user. We also see this, and we see this. All right, now if I click on the edit profile, then in the edit profile I don't see anything because I am not passing anything here. Okay, which is a little bit strange. We are passing some information. So if I go and check on the edit profile, I pass the user info, and this could be reason that whenever it fetches the user, it sets the data as an empty. So what we can do is, if we go to the user profile, and in the user profile, if we go here, all right, then if there is no such document, we should pass null. Now we can give a try. So if I go back home, and if I go to the profile, I have this one. All right, I will click on the edit, and I still don't see anything. Let's go and let's check. So I go back here, and I have this initial data on the profile. Okay, this should be the initial value, so I should have gotten this information at least. So let's go and let's check. So maybe what we will do is this data get an empty object, and that is actually overriding our initial user info. So we can do one thing is we can just use this, that if this dot display name, it has a property, then only it will update our user info. So now let's go and let's check. So what I will do is I'm going to go to home, and if I go to profile, then you see that now we have this profile. All right, I'm going to click on edit, update my profile picture. So let's update profile picture, and I'm going to click on done. Now we can also update the guest user. So I can update the guest user as maybe John, and here I can add I am a food lover and travel blogger. All right, I'm going to click on the update, and you see that it's now updating. Now it doesn't have any post, so let's create a post. I'm going to click on the add post, and here I will add this is my first post of traveling, maybe, yeah, traveling. I will upload a picture here, so maybe I will upload this picture. I'm going to click open. All right, I'm going to click done, and we get the preview here. All right, then I'm going to click on the post, and we see that we have a John Day here, and this is the first post after traveling. All right, now we can also like this post, we can dislike this post, we can like this post, and if we change the profile, then it will get automatically changed. So let me go and change it. I'm going to change it Dawn Day Traveler. I'm going to click on the update. It's got changed here. If I go, then it get changed here, it get changed here as well. And if I go to my photos, I see the photos here. Now if I go to the home, and if I like this, and if I go to my photos, you will see that we have one like. If we go to the profile, we see one like. So we will take a pause here, and then maybe in the next video we will continue to enhance more features of this app, maybe have the list of the users and following users, and then we will see what more we can do in this app. So that's all I have in this video. I hope you liked the video. Thumbs up is appreciated. You can also connect with me via Facebook or Instagram. You can follow me on Twitter for latest updates. And before you go, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and press the bell icon so that you don't miss the videos like this one. Thank you. Thanks for watching.